In the making of the box, we're going to look at the 3 steps: insert, locate, and size or resize. And we're going to look at 3 tools. Okay. First thing I do, I can't put anything directly into a project. So I'm going to add an assembly. And by default, the assembly takes on the size of the project. And as you saw a few minutes ago, we can change that. But I want to work with this assembly. Now, there are times, like I'm just kind of guessing here, if I should go into that assembly to work in it. That's the proper procedure. But there are times when, like I think this time, there's only one assembly. So if I say add a board, SketchList says, you only have one assembly, so you must be meaning to put that assembly into that board into that assembly. First board is going to be the side on the left. And I pick a material so what we're picking the material for 2 different reasons. One is to have the, to have it look like you want it to look. So you can have these textures, which you can add. You can add textures from our standard library, or you can actually take an image or a photograph and incorporate it. So if you're using some of the species I've seen that were new to me come from our Australian users who just have a different palette of woods to work with. So you can incorporate those, no problem. And the separator is the material type. So you have sheet goods and you have solid lumber, just like we do in the workshop. SketchList works like we work in the workshop, and that at least that's our goal. So I'm putting this left side of our box in, and I've picked the material. I've given it a name. Now I want to size it. And this, we're going to go through this 3 different times, and you'll see. What I'm saying is, what size is it in the assembly? Well, the first thing, since this board is going to be up here on the left side, and it's going to be a vertical board, the width of that board is going to be 3/4 of an inch, 0.75. The height of the board, I'm going to make 24, and the depth 24. We want to put in which of those is the thickness. It's obvious. And the software uses the thickness for the parts list, a cut list, and it uses it for laying out the sheet good optimizer. So that's an important value. And then the other value, and it's also used for the cutting list and for the optimizer, is what way does the grain run? Because if there are situations where you can have the grain specified the wrong way. Say the grain is running 60-inch direction, and that happens to lay out on the 48-inch direction of a sheet of plywood, that's not going to fly. So grain direction and thickness are the other characteristics of the board that we're putting in, the piece we're putting in. Now we just add the board, and there it is. Okay. So now I've jumped back up. Oh, I was in project level, but now I need to go to assembly level. So I inserted and I sized, and I want to locate. So I'm going to take that blue dot and right click it and put it 2 inches from the left. Right click the blue dot. Blue dots locate left, and I'm going to say okay. So there it is. In thinking ahead a little bit, because I want to put a piece on the front of this from side to side, I am going to right click that red dot and change its front value to 3/4 to make up for the face frame or for the other piece. So right click the red dot, enter the new front value, and there it goes. Now we've got our first piece. And I guess I'd take that a step further and do the same thing for the top. So the top is going to be 23 3/4. So I put that top piece all the way across like that. And we have our first board. And that's pretty much kind of the heart of what you do when you're designing in SketchList. You insert a board, you put it where you want it, and you assign the proper size to it. You do it over and over again. And there are more, and we'll see in a bit about the details you can put and other utility tools that'll help you locate things and so forth. But essentially, what I just did is what we do. So I'm going to put the next board in. I'll put the backboard in, and in fact, yeah, I'm going to put the backboard in. At the assembly level, I go to the new board form icon, which is there, and back. That's the backboard. I'm using that same ash sheet good. Now, when you do this, you don't have to really think a lot about the width and the height. You can if you like, or if you happen to know it, you just put it in. But I usually just kind of guesstimate something that will fit. Now, in this case, the backboard's going to be, I'm going to be facing it, and the thickness of the material is the depth. And let me just show you what that looks like. Now that's what, well, it's a, front facing board. It should be on the back in this case, but it's, well, so far it's on the front. I'm just going to put the grain direction as the width like that. Add the board. So now that is, that's essentially just insert, some sizing, but it's basically the insert. So locate and size, you can do those in any order. So I'm going to locate this. I always do this way. And the way I do things, you might just completely do things differently. This is just, I've been doing this for 10 or 11 years, and I'm not one to change easily, so this is the way I do it. But you might do it differently. You could align that board back there using the align commands, but this is what works for me. So what I want to do is take the value of that corner, which is 2 3/4 from the left, 24 inches from the front, and 24 inches from the front, and 0 from the bottom. I'm going to copy those values into the clipboard. And here, I'm just going to right-click that blue dot, paste that value, and there you go. And I've got my backboard. Now, there's a couple of ways I can continue the resize here. One is that when I just look here, and I look on the panel on the right and see the top of that board is 23 3/4. So that introduces us to our next tool, which is the calculator on the right side of the panel. So if this is 23 3/4, I think is what I said. The bottom, I want to continue being at 0. I don't want it to be off the bottom. So if I click that button labeled height, that changes that, like that. And you see how those two boards are different. They're different by the thickness. The thickness determines, the board is horizontal or vertical or whatever. I put in one more board. Come in here, put in the board, and this will be bottom. Same material. Now the width, this is one of those I don't care times. Depth, I don't care. The height is going to be 3/4 because that is the thickness. And that's what I want to see. It's exactly what's here. And maybe I'm going to have the width carry the grain direction. So it matches that backboard. That's insert. Size and locate. Okay. So now I'm going to take that blue value, which is the front right corner on the bottom of the board. I'm going to copy the values and paste them there like that. So I've got it located really. And there's a couple of different ways I can finish the resizing. I could just notice that the front of this board, like in the calculators, 23 1/4, I could come here and make this 23 1/4. One of our other tools, a red dot, just make the back of that 23 1/4. Okay, so I could do that. I can go into the spreadsheet and look here on the bottom, say the front of that board is 23 1/4. So if the back of this board is 23 1/4, 25, and I click the depth, boom, and I know they're right there. So it's still not become a box yet, but we're getting there. Okay, we have all three board types. I take the right side and I'm going to clone and mirror. So that puts it here. Now, this has a left value of 2. And this has our right value of 22, which means it's 2 inches from the right edge of the box, which is what I want. And now you can use any of those tools to line up there. You want to essentially finish the sizing of these boards. So I can go here and notice that the left is 21 1/4. Actually, I think I can copy that. Come here and do a paste, Control V, and change the width like that. So that was pretty easy. And I think I can even go here and still do a paste and change the width. Now I've got those parts of my box. I'm going to put the top on. And there's different ways I can do that. For expediency's sake, I could just take this board and clone it, and then in the calculator, I can take that slider bar and just slide it all the way to the top. And so I have made a miscalculation. Is it all the way to the top? Yes. All right. So the bottom is 23 1/4. So really, oh, I wanted that. Okay. So the top of this should have been 23 1/4. So I entered 23 1/4 in the calculator. I pull down the height a little bit. Now I can just take that, delete it, take that and clone and mirror it. So it's back. Depending on what I want to do at the top, if I just want a strict box, I can look here and say the left is 2. So using the red dot tool, I can say the left is 2, like that. If I come here, go to the spreadsheet, say that the right of that spreadsheet, bring it up a bit, right of the spreadsheet value for that board is 22. So I look here, the right of that has to be 22. So I enter 22 and I click the column heading width, and it goes like that. So what happens if I click the other number? So say here I made this 24. I don't want to do that one. Say here I make this 24. Okay. If I click width, that value is going to change. But if I click left, it's going to move it over that 2 inches. So everything in the calculator and the spreadsheet, first of all, they're absolutely connected. Any change I make here happens there and vice versa. So if I wanted to say that I want the left of that to be 0 and change the width, I click the width. I can either click it here. Now for the rest of our box, say I wanted to put the face frame on. There's nothing different from this point on. You can make, you can just about make anything you want to make. Like for a beginner, you can make a great table or a bookcase or whatever you want using these steps and these tools. There are tools that provide more detail, like how to shape a board or how to add a joint to a board. And there are automation tools like the clone in space, different tools. But in the align tool, there's a lot of utilities that help you maybe go faster. But right now, you basically know all you need to know to design in SketchList without the detail and without some of the utilities. And the reports we'll do before the end of our time together. So just to follow up on that idea and say, well, all right, what I'm going to do, look here, and I want to put that top board, its front value is 3/4, and I want to make it 0. Well, everyone who's not watching TV, you all know how to do that already. I can do it in the calculator, tame that to 0, click on back, which I'm going to do. 0 and back. And I don't have that all the way to the back. So I want to make that go all the way to the back, change the value to 24 and change the depth. Now I have that squared away. Okay. I'm going to put in the frame, put in its insert. Here, I probably want to change the material type, so I'm using solid lumber. So I'm going to just use this. The width is going to be 2. The height will be whatever that height is. It's 23 1/4, but I don't really have to know that. I just say it's going to be something. And the depth in this case is going to be 3/4, which becomes the thickness of the lumber. The grain's going to run up and down, and there it is. Okay. So I inserted the board. Now I want to locate it. How would I locate it? I'm going to place it right there. I'm just zooming the wheel on my mouse. Say, I want to take that blue dot. Sometimes it just gets feisty. There you go. Copy the values, blue dot locates. And I'm going to take that blue dot, right click, and paste like that. And you see it's just snugs right up against there because the values, the back left bottom value of the style is equal to the front left bottom value of the sideboard, like that. And then here, again, there are different ways I can look at that. So the bottom of this is 23 1/4. So I'm going to make the top 23 1/4, like that, changing the height. Just like this. Come here. I'm going to clone and mirror that one. That's one of the utilities. It's a time saver. Just put it over there. I'm ready to put in my rail. Same thing. Insert, size, and locate. And I'm kind of glossing over entering the part names, but you shouldn't, because you get to a point where you'll have 300 or 400 boards, and you'll be trying to work with them, and you won't know what you're doing. So it's the more descriptive you can be with your board name, or even create a convention so that when you see the board name, you say, oh, this is over on the left side, it's near the bottom, it's this, it's that. There's some information there. So this is the bottom rail. I don't care what the width is because I'm going to adjust that. I don't want to take the time to think about it. The height will be 2. The depth will be the 3/4, which is the thickness of the material. The width really should run, the grain really should run the width like that. And here we go. Now, because there's a boundary, these two styles make the boundary. One of the shortcuts is if I hold down the Shift key, grab the red dot with my mouse and just slide it over, it will snap. If you saw it with just a last fraction of an inch, it snapped to the edge of that. So I can test that. The left of this is 20, the right of that is 20. I can do the same thing here. Just come here and then just hold down a Shift key, dragging the red dot, and we're all set. Now, if I take this and I clone it, I know when you're working in a project, you start just knowing things about where things are located and their sizes. So I've worked so much with this top value, I know it's 23 1/4. So I want this cloned rail to have a top value of 23 1/4. Keep the height the same, click on that bottom button, and there it is. All right. And we're in good shape. I think it's, it's a decent looking box for a box. You take that bottom shelf and clone it. And in this case, let's look at a tool, clone in space. So I want to make one copy of that bottom board. I want to space it from the bottom. And I'm going to make that space 10 inches. Just like that. So now I have the shelf in my cabinet, so to speak.